Right now, you are a tropical animal. Your body was built for the heat of Africa. You have no thick fur to trap warmth. Your skin is thin and bare. You sweat to cool down, not to heat up. Drop you naked into an ice age winter, and you would be dead by morning. You are simply not built for the cold. The cold is one of the great killers. It can freeze a body faster than almost anything. And yet, here is the strange part. Humans did not just survive the frozen world. They conquered it, all the way to the Arctic. A sweaty tropical ape took over the ice. Without fur, without claws, without a warm body. So how on earth did we pull that off? This is the story of how we beat the cold. It is a story of fire, hides, and cunning. Start by picturing your distant ancestors. They evolved under the hot African sun. Their bodies were tuned for warmth and sweat. Long limbs to shed heat, thin skin, bare bodies. Perfect for chasing prey across a hot savanna. We were sprinters of the warm grasslands, but utterly wrong for a frozen land. We never grew a thick coat of fur. We never learned to hibernate through winter. We never developed a body for the cold at all. Nature never handed us a winter body. By every rule of nature, we should have stayed put, stuck forever in the warm parts of the world. The tropics were our cage and our comfort. But around the planet, the ice was spreading. Vast sheets of it crawled across the north. At the worst of the last ice age, glaciers buried much of Europe and North America. The world turned into a frozen wasteland. Wind howled across endless sheets of white. And somehow, humans walked straight into it. Not only did they survive there, they built homes, raised children, and thrived. So if our bodies could not do it, what exactly saved us from the cold? The answer was never in our bodies. It was in our minds and in our hands. We did not grow warmer, we grew cleverer. And our first great weapon was fire, not a sharper spear, but a tamed flame. Humans had tamed fire long before the ice. Maybe 300,000 or 400,000 years ago. Fire was a small portable piece of summer. It pushed back the freezing dark, a circle of light in a world of ice. It warmed cold hands and frozen feet. It turned a bleak cave into a shelter. And fire did something else, just as vital. It let our ancestors cook their food. Cooking unlocked far more energy from every meal. More calories meant more fuel to burn for heat. In the cold, your body is a furnace, and that furnace needs constant feeding. Fire kept the furnace burning through the night. Without it, the dark would have swallowed them. But a fire cannot follow you everywhere. Step away from it, and the cold returns. So humans learned to carry warmth on their bodies. They learned to wear clothes, and this began far earlier than you would guess. Scientists studied a strange little clue. Lice. Body lice only live in clothing, so they appeared when clothing first did, tracking their DNA points to a date. Humans were dressed 170,000 years ago. We dressed ourselves before we truly needed to, long before they ever reached the ice. But early clothing was simple and loose, just hides draped over the shoulders, useful but full of gaps for the wind. Cold air found every loose edge. Then came one of our greatest inventions, a tiny, humble tool, the sewing needle. Carved from bone with a hole for thread. Around 40,000 years ago, it changed everything. Now humans could stitch hides together. They could shape clothes to fit the body. Fitted sleeves, snug hoods, layered garments. A wearable shell that trapped your own heat. Each person carried a pocket of warm air. A little piece of the tropics worn like armor, small, sharp, and quietly world-changing. That humble needle was a survival weapon. It let a tropical ape walk into a blizzard. Warmth was now something you could wear. Suddenly the whole frozen north lay open. Fire and clothing were still not enough. To truly settle the cold, they needed homes. Where caves existed, humans moved in. They sealed the gaps and weatherproofed the walls. But the frozen plains had no caves at all, so humans simply built their own. And what they built is astonishing. In the cold grasslands of Eastern Europe, they raised huts out of mammoth bones. Huge tusks and ribs formed the frame. Hides and packed earth sealed it tight. Some of these homes are over 20,000 years old. Round, sturdy, shelters against the endless wind, built by hand far from any cave. Imagine building a whole house from a mammoth. Inside, with a fire glowing, it was warm, a tiny island of summer in a frozen sea. Children slept warm while blizzards raged outside. They had learned to make warmth where there was none. Stone Age engineers, building against the ice. Still, all of this needed fuel and food, and the frozen world was a harsh pantry. No fruit trees and almost nothing to gather. So our ancestors hunted the giants of the ice, woolly mammoths towering and dangerous, Woolly rhinos, reindeer, wild horses, and bison. A single mammoth was a mountain of food. Rich, fatty meat to feed the body's furnace. Thick hides to turn into clothing and cover. Bones and tusks to build homes and tools. Nothing was ever wasted from a kill. But hunting a mammoth alone was suicide. It took a whole group working as one, planning, signaling, and trusting each other. They drove herds into traps and narrow valleys. They shared the meat across the whole band. And they stored and froze food for lean times. No single human could survive that world, but a team of humans could rule it. Cooperation was its own kind of warmth, a shared fire, a shared meal, a shared chance. And so, armed with all of this, humans pushed further north than ever before, past forests, past tundra, into the deep Arctic. In Siberia, scientists found a stunning sight. It sits far above the Arctic Circle, around 70 degrees north near the frozen ocean, and people were already living there, about 32,000 years in the past. In the depths of the last great ice age, right at the edge of the livable world, they hunted mammoth in the bitter dark. They thrived where almost nothing else could, cooking and sheltering under the polar sky. Think how impossible that should have been. A tropical ape camped beside the Arctic Sea. No other primate has ever done such a thing. Other apes stayed safe in the warm forests. We alone marched into the freezing unknown, and we did it without changing our bodies at all. Because that is the real secret here. We did not beat the cold by evolving. We beat it by inventing. Our tools became our fur and our claws. Our culture became the organ that saved us. Knowledge passed from parent to child. How to sew, how to build, how to hunt. That shared knowledge was our true coat. It was a victory of the mind, not the body. We thought our way out of the freezer, but your body did get a little help too. Deep inside you sits a special kind of fat. Scientists call it brown fat. It does not store energy, it burns it. It burns fuel purely to make heat. A built-in heater, humming inside you, quietly warming you from the inside out. Babies are packed with it for warmth, and you still carry some as an adult. When you shiver, your muscles make heat too. When you get goosebumps, that is an old reflex. Your skin is trying to fluff up fur you lost. These are tiny leftovers of the fight for warmth. Old machinery still ticking inside you, and some people carry an even deeper gift. Genes that boost that heat-making brown fat. In Arctic peoples, those genes are common, and scientists traced where they came from. They were inherited from an ancient cousin, a vanished human group related to the Denisovans. Long-gone cousins, still helping keep us warm. A hand-me-down for the cold, written in your DNA. So the conquest of the cold lives on in you, right there in your blood and your fat. Now step back and see the whole picture. You are still a tropical animal at heart. Your body has never stopped craving warmth, but you have never truly had to feel the cold, because your ancestors solved it long ago. They learned to carry summer with them, a fire to hold back the freezing dark, a coat to wrap warmth around the body, a shelter to build a warm world inside. And that is why you can live almost anywhere, in deserts, jungles, mountains, and ice, even floating in a station above the earth. Not because your body conquered those places, but because your mind learned to carry home along. Your home is something you build, not something you find. Every time you zip up a winter jacket, you are using an ancient survival trick. A trick tens of thousands of years old, passed down from people who beat the ice. An idea so good it never wore out. We never out-muscled the frozen world. We simply out-thought it. The cold did not make our ancestors tougher. It made them cleverer instead. And that cleverness is your inheritance. A warm tropical ape wrapped against the snow, carrying a piece of Africa into the Arctic, not with a thicker coat of fur, but with a warmer, cleverer mind. That is how we conquered the frozen world.